It's that time again, folks. It's time for the original Dragon Talk Radio. I'm your host, John Clement. Are you ready? Let's do this thing. Welcome to the original Dragon Talk Radio. This is your host, John Clement. And today we have, well, what I often refer to as a rage rant. I promised that we would get away from gaming for just a little bit. Gaming's a big thing, but don't need to be talking about gaming every day. So today we're talking about comic books, superheroes, and that sort of thing, which I can use that to kind of lead into today's Smurdiverse Entertainment product of the day is Metahumans versus Werewolves, which is an anthology that came out from Coscom Entertainment, and I was deeply honored and invited to be one of the anthology contributors. So in Metahumans versus Werewolves, and we know Metahumans is kind of like a legalistically safe way to say superheroes, because DC and Marvel have many years ago, before I was born, they jointly copyrighted, the term superhero. I usually try to say costumed heroes when I'm putting official things in writing and stuff like that. But in Metahumans versus Werewolves, link down below to where you can find it, there are a number of stories where metahumans, costumed heroes, or superhero-inspired characters, if we're going to try to be legally safe, face off against werewolves. The story that I contributed is called The Skin Changer, and I shout out to Winsong Levitch, who is a Ojibwe, and her tribe actually gave her permission to consult with me about the skinwalker legends of her people, because I wanted to create a werewolf villain character for the story that wasn't just a regular pop culture werewolf. Not that pop culture werewolves can't be fun, but I wanted mine to, I try to want to make mine unique or stand out somehow. And so the Skin Changer is a official Smurdiverse universe story. It does not have Velocity Girl or Smurd in it. It is some other characters from the Smurdiverse. But it's fun, and the other stories in there are amazing as well. And so that's our Smurdiverse Entertainment product of the day, Metahumans versus Werewolves. But the topic today is a little superhero-ish, because I saw Google on my Android phone just kind of offered up, the algorithm there offered up, what it thought would be clickbait for me, and it was. And basically, recently, some guy at DC came out with a statement that said that it's not up for debate. And there were quotes around that. It's not up for debate. He said that Cassandra Cain Batgirl, just hands down, it's not up for debate, could just kick Batman's ass, just any day of the week. And this is... Now, Batgirl, I say Cassandra Cain Batgirl instead of just saying Batgirl. Some people are more or less into comics than others. As far as I'm aware, about 3 ladies have been Batgirl over the years. The original one, the one most people identify with as Batgirl, is Barbara Gordon, Commissioner Gordon's daughter. But there have been a couple other ladies. Cassandra Cain, the lady we're talking about today, is one of them. And the other one that I'm aware of is Cluemaster's daughter, Spoiler. Has, at least for, I think maybe for the briefest period compared to the other two, but I think for the briefest period, she was doing some Batgirl stuff. But so 3 ladies have been Batgirl. Cassandra Cain is the one we're talking about today. And this guy at DC just says, it's not even up for debate. And he had some kind of rationalization about, her body language reading abilities and stuff like that. But, this is, we are in the day and age where, this is 2024, and Games Workshop has just, gaslightedly retconned female custodies into their lore. And a lot of people think, and I kind of agree with them, we'll see what happens. It's the future, and, I don't predict the future any better or worse than anybody else. Sometimes the things I think are going to happen, and sometimes they don't. But a lot of people are kind of expecting that now that they've gaslightedly retconned female custodies into Warhammer 40K, then there's going to be female Space Marines. And this isn't a video about the Warhammer lore. The quickest way to get across why that's a bad writing decision is because the process that turns people into Space Marines is only survived by less than 1% of the strong of the strong of the strong of the strong of humanity, physically strong. And so if this process kills, over 99% of humanity and less than 1% of the physically strongest people even survive, then the less than 1% of the physically strongest people are all going to be male. That's science, that's biology, that's, we've got all sorts of things going on in the news these days about, biological males competing in female sports, and, there's boxers that are, just literally bashing in the skulls of female fighters in kickboxing and other things like that. I mean, it's, we live in a time where, unfortunately, like I was saying a couple days ago about this volume 4 of original DragonTalk Radio, is why I could have brought DragonTalk Radio back in some earlier years before we got to 2024. I didn't, because and one of the reasons I didn't was it just wouldn't work the way it did before, because the culture war is just so hot and heavy that, like, everybody wants you to choose a side, and we can't just enjoy things anymore. Everything has to be about the culture war. And I was talking with an Irish listener of ours before recording this. And I was kind of telling him, I may be doing one of those, one of those rant and rave type, videos. And he had mentioned that, like Gina Carofalo's character in The Mandalorian for Star Wars, was a very strong, physically powerful combatant woman, and she pulled it off. But he said, and here's the Irish part, but he said some little girl that's 8 or 9 stones. It's like, I don't even know how many English pounds a stone is, or how many metric kilograms a stone is. Excuse me, but little frog in my throat today. But it's cool. Yeah, a little 8 or 9 stone girl is not going to be throwing adult men around. And now, the thing is, in fantasy, whether it's comic book fantasy, science fiction fantasy, fantasy, anime fantasy, whatever kind of fantasy you're talking about, there are lore reasons why you're going to have physically powerful females. She-Hulk from Marvel, she's gamma irradiated just like the Hulk. Okay. I remember in the 1980s, there was a time period where they had a very long storyline period where Ben Grimm, the Thing, had reverted to being human, and it lasted for, I think, a few years. And they, in the story, in the universe story, they didn't know that he was ever going to be the Thing again. They thought he was just permanently human. And She-Hulk joined the Fantastic Four to kind of be the strong person that, for the Fantastic Four. And Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, like Marvel Universe's smartest man in the world, he made her a weight set, of free weights for it to lift at the gym and everything, bench press and whatnot, squats and everything. He made it out of black hole matter so that it would be dense enough and heavy enough that she could work out with it at her strength level, because she's She-Hulk. So She-Hulk was working out and bulking up. And I remember in the Marvel Superheroes role-playing game at the time, they actually increased her strength to the next bigger super strengths category because of her time with the Fantastic Four, working out with that weight set that Reed Richards had made for her. So And then in DC, for many, many years now, I think since the 2010s, they've officially said, and it makes sense in the story, that Supergirl is tougher than Superman. In terms, she might be a little bit stronger, but certainly one of the things they've done since the 2010s is that she is only affected by natural, organic kryptonite that actually traces its origin back to exploded pieces of the planet Krypton. Whereas Superman can be affected by artificial kryptonite because, genius villains like Lex Luthor and stuff, or even, Batman, for his contingency plan to take out Superman, artificial kryptonite can be synthesized. Synthetic kryptonite can be synthesized in the DC universe, and Superman can be affected by the artificial stuff and the natural stuff. But apparently, according to the lore, as I understand it, Supergirl can only be affected by the real stuff. It's only affected by natural kryptonite, not the synthetic stuff. And of course, natural kryptonite, there's only a limited quantity of that in the universe, and so much harder to get a hold of as a resource than synthetic kryptonite. So, and synthetic kryptonite's not easy to come by either. In The Dark Knight Returns, when Batman faced off against Superman, he said it took years and a fortune to synthesize. Fortunately, I had both. Years and a fortune. But so there are reasons why there are strong characters, but physiologically, scientifically, anatomically, if you follow any of this trans athlete type stuff in the news, people will talk about muscle density in males, bone density in males, stuff like that. And it's just, so for DC to just come out and say that, Cassandra Cain Batgirl, it's not even up for debate, she's tougher than Batman in a fight. Cassandra Cain does not have super strength of any kind. Okay, there is no superhuman, fantasy, sci-fi, supernatural, there's no, her strength is not augmented. Now she does have some mental stuff going on where, according to the lore that I read anyway, she was trained as a martial artist and she was a tiny little girl, and the people that trained her used some kind of training technique where they used extra space in her brain to study martial arts at the cost of other things. So she was mute when she was first introduced as a character because she couldn't speak, because apparently the language centers of her brain had been used for kinesthetic things like martial arts instead, and the body language reading thing that this DC guy's talking about. But she's lighter than Batman in body mass. Her muscles and bones are not as dense. It's not. If we had if Batman and Cassandra Cain were real people and we had a bench press contest, or a squats contest or something, come on now. It's just it's absurd. And if you are tired of DC and Marvel being absurd, then check out the Smurdiverse heroes. Smurdiverse.com, link below. There are some books there that I wrote a few years ago, before I had to take a break because, I was, homeless and blah, blah, blah. And there's a book about that too. But lately the Smurdiverse is coming back. There's a Kindle Vella. I'll put the link down below where the Smurdiverse is making a comeback. I feel kind of like the Quartering, where they talk about coffee brand coffee. If you're tired of the nonsense and you just want coffee, get coffee brand coffee. Well, this is my version of that. If you're tired of the superhero nonsense, check out Smurdiverse Heroes. Link below. All right, so I've used this time today. I appreciate you listening. I've used this time not only to plug my own stuff, but also to make the Batman and Cassandra Cain Batgirl rant rave reaction video. But anyway, the channel's not that big yet. I do read every comment down below. I suppose sometime the channel will be big enough that I can't read and respond to every comment, but we're not there yet. So right now I still enjoy reading and responding to everyone. And if it ever gets to the point that I can't do that, then we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So this is the original Dragon Talk Radio signing off. Here's one quick little addendum. I was getting ready to post the show, and I remembered that I had forgotten to mention, see, I'm not against Supergirl being stronger than Superman because it has reasons that make sense. Superman was sent to Earth as a baby, but Supergirl lived on Krypton all the way into her teenagerhood. So she is, because she experienced the actual native environment of Krypton all the way up to her developmental years, the teenage years, and little baby Kal-El did not, it makes sense in the lore. That's all we ask, really. And by we, I mean fans in general. That's all we ask, is that the lore, not change on us for wokeism. So it is time for the rise of non-woke entertainment, and that's why Smurtiverse Entertainment is here. Now I'm really signing off.